In the sandy fields of White Island, two motorcyclists are racing and doing tricks. However, one of them loses his way and falls off a huge dune, which ends up damaging his motorcycle. He tries to start it, but can't, and calls out to his colleague, Tim, for help. However, in the middle of the dune, the biker feels a strong tremor and, unexpectedly, he is attacked by a creature from underground. Shortly afterwards, Tim notices his friend's absence and goes to look for him, but finds only the flag of his motorcycle. Then a huge fin appears in front of him, crossing the earth and coming towards him, forcing the biker to flee. He sets off at high speed, but overbalances in a jump and is almost swallowed up by a huge shark coming out of the sand. Tim recovers from the fall and runs to save himself, but the creature jumps at him, bites his leg and starts dragging him across the field. Nearby, at the police station, a guy called Jimmy Green is on his way to meet his father, Mayor Greenberg. On the way, he meets up again with an old friend, Sheriff John, who is not very happy to see him again because of a tragedy he caused in the past. After this reunion, Jimmy goes to talk to his father and, despite not being well received by him either, the guy says he has a lucrative offer for the island. While the two of them are talking, the sheriff receives a murder call on the beach and goes there with his sister, police officer Brenda. Arriving at the scene, they find Tim's head and strange tracks in the sand. John believes that a murderer is on the loose on the island, but Brenda suspects something even worse, as the victim's body has been dragged through the sand and the wounds appear to have been caused by bites. In addition, the beach is known for having sharks and Brenda suggests talking to a specialist to see if this was the work of marine predators. However, her brother doesn't believe her and tells them to keep investigating, as well as telling Brenda that Jimmy, her ex-boyfriend, is back. Speaking of him, Jimmy presents his father with his grand plan to organize an event on the island, called the Sandman Festival. His idea is to create a traditional festival on White Island that can attract tourists and make a lot of money for local businesses. The mayor approves the idea and, in addition to releasing funds and the space on the beach, he leaves Jimmy in charge of organizing the festival. Meanwhile, Brenda calls the marine laboratory and, even against her brother's wishes, she talks to Dr. Sandy Powers to ask for her help in investigating the eliminations on the beach. The doctor accepts and the two head for the beach, but before they reach the spot, a couple is enjoying themselves in front of the sea. The guy has buried himself in the sand and asks his girlfriend to help him get out, but she says she's too busy putting on her suntan lotion. In a moment of distraction, the young woman is pulled into the ground by the huge sand shark. Seeing this, her boyfriend tries to get out to rescue her, but the man remains buried and ends up being devoured by the creature too. Hours later, Sheriff John observes the sea, fearing that Brenda's suspicions about the sharks are true. Then his sister shows up to talk about the investigation, but the two are interrupted when they hear the screams of a young girl, who seems to be being chased by the marine predator. The two run to save her, only to discover that the shark was the girl's boyfriend, wearing a fin hat. At the same time, Jimmy also arrives at the beach to begin preparations for the festival, along with Aaron, his intern, Willie, a computer specialist, and Amanda, his lawyer. There, Jimmy meets Sheriff John again with Brenda, who is still holding a grudge over the end of their relationship. Despite this, he says he's only on the island for business and that he's going to organize a festival to make White Islands more profitable. However, the sheriff doesn't approve of the idea, as the last beach party organized by Jimmy resulted in the elimination of 15 people, including John's wife and son. The two get into an argument and, at the same moment, a young surfer, along with his girlfriend, shows up on the beach to catch some waves. But as soon as he enters the water, the huge sand shark attacks again and swallows him up in a matter of seconds. His girlfriend sees everything and desperately runs to tell the sheriff, who at first doesn't believe her story. However, everything the young woman said turns out to be true when she too is swallowed by the monster in front of everyone. This tragedy soon becomes news all over the island and the residents call an emergency meeting at the town hall to deal with the matter. At the meeting, John and Brenda suggest closing the beach for 24 hours until they can stop the creature. However, one of the residents, called Angus, says he will hunt down the shark and bring back its head, as long as the town council pays him a reward of $10,000. The mayor doesn't take the old man seriously, but agrees to the terms and offers a reward to anyone who catches the monster. Later, two locals, interested in the $10,000, set off in a boat along the beach in search of the shark. It doesn't take long for the monster's huge fin to appear in the water and, with its force, it capsizes the dinghy and knocks the guys into the water. As they were in the shallow part of the sea, the two manage to get the dinghy to dry land, but the shark jumps out of the water and devours them, with no chance of escape. The next morning, Brenda and Dr. Powers go to investigate the crime scene, but they only find the boat, with the victim's arms ripped off. Just then, Jimmy and his team show up at the scene, ready to get the festival underway, even though the sand shark is still on the loose. Enraged by this attitude, Brenda goes to him and tells him that the festival won't take place until the 24-hour ban has passed. Even with this ban, Jimmy asks his intern, Aaron, to publicize the festival to the locals, while he takes care of the rest. Hours later, Dr. Powers takes the remains of the victims back to the laboratory and is visited by Sheriff John, who wants to know more about the investigation. The doctor reveals that she has found one of the shark's teeth, but analysis has shown that it doesn't belong to any known species. She says that the tooth looks a lot like the one her father brought back one day and that, according to her research, it belonged to a prehistoric shark. The conversation continues until John gets a call from Brenda, saying that they've found the sand shark. The sheriff and the doctor go to the site and find Jimmy congratulating a fisherman known as Spark, who has caught an enormous great white shark. He says in front of everyone that this is the monster of the island and, with the end of this threat, the festival can be held. Knowing Jimmy, John asks Sandy to take a closer look at the shark and see if the story is true. As he feared, the doctor says that although it is a real shark, it is not the one they are looking for, as its teeth are smaller and it appears to have been perished for weeks. On hearing this, the sheriff decides to keep the beach closed, forcing Jimmy to return to his lodgings and come up with another plan. When night falls, Willie continues to publicize the festival on Jimmy's orders, until the sand shark appears on the beach and breaks the power cables with its teeth. As a result, the power goes out on the entire island and Willie loses all his publicity work. To make matters worse, police officer Brenda shows up shortly afterwards and orders Jimmy to accompany her in her car. With no choice, he obeys and is taken handcuffed to a parking lot, where they find the mayor and the sheriff interrogating Spark. John finds the guy near the power station and deduces that it was he who caused the blackout. Furious, John aims his pistol at Spark, but Jimmy reveals that he is one of his contractors and that he has gone there to fix the power problem. Meanwhile, Sandy continues to collect samples of the monster on the beach, but soon sees the sand shark's fin approaching. In the distance, the sheriff sees the doctor in danger and rushes to her aid, leaving Spark free to look for the damaged power cable. Sandy tells John to stay away from the sand and, from inside her bag, she pulls out a pistol and fires at the monster, but ends up missing her target. Even so, the shots make the shark move away and she takes the opportunity to escape from the sand and reunite with the group. Now that he knows about the monster's existence, the mayor decides to close the beach indefinitely. Jimmy protests, but his father tells him that it is his duty, as mayor of the town, to protect the residents. The problem is that, while making this speech, the mayor gets too close to the sand, giving the shark the chance to devour him in one leap. Faced with this tragedy, Jimmy and everyone else are in shock, but there's no time to lose as the shark is still on the loose. However, the group realizes that the monster is heading towards the beach and sees that, nearby, Spark is trying to reconnect the power cables. John and Sandy pull out their pistols to shoot the monster, but it's too fast on the sand and gets closer and closer to its prey. Jimmy shouts for Spark to get out of there, but the man is listening to music on his headset and doesn't hear the warnings. Finally, he connects the two power cables, returning the light to the island, but at the same moment, the shark sets out to attack him. The guy becomes another victim of the creature, but the energy discharge from the cables causes a huge explosion, leaving the monster's body in pieces. With the end of the shark, days pass and Jimmy decides to continue the festival in honor of his father. Shortly afterwards, Brenda shows up to see how he's doing and, despite her past hurts, the policewoman still has feelings for her ex-boyfriend and wishes him good luck with his plan. However, Jimmy is so focused on the festival that he doesn't take much notice of the young policewoman's gesture and returns to the town hall. Later, in Dr. Powers' laboratory, she is analyzing the remains of the sand shark and Sheriff John goes to check on her. Unfortunately, she has bad news, because despite the monster's size, she discovered that it was only a pup, born a few months ago. This means that, somewhere else on the island, the shark's mother must be looking for it and a new series of eliminations will take place on the island. Upon hearing this, the sheriff fears that an even worse tragedy is about to happen, as the shark will have new prey at the Sandman Festival. So the two of them go to the town hall and tell Jimmy what they've discovered, but he doesn't want to stop the event based on assumptions. Seeing that there isn't enough evidence, the sheriff has no choice but to allow the party to go ahead, but warns that he will maintain constant vigilance. With everything settled, the festival finally gets underway and several young people from the island attend the big event. A stage is set up on the beach and while Jimmy is performing, in the distance, Sheriff John and Dr. Powers are watching from a hilltop. As well as them, Brenda is also on the lookout, but as soon as Jimmy leaves the stage and returns to his trailer, she goes after him. Just then, Jimmy comes across Amanda, who is pleased with his work at the festival. She's so pleased that, out of the blue, she kisses him and wants to have a romantic moment with him right there. To her misfortune, Brenda arrives at that very moment and, because she still likes Jimmy, she leaves hurt. The guy tries to explain himself, but it's no use and Amanda even mocks the policewoman, something Jimmy doesn't like at all. He then dismisses the lawyer and tells her to leave, but before she can argue, another sand shark attacks her. Jimmy screams in horror and tries to help Amanda, but the monster tears her body apart with its teeth, leaving only her head. Faced with this terrible scene, Jimmy despairs, but as soon as Aaron and Willie appear on the scene, he tries to keep up appearances. The young intern then asks to take a photo of the two colleagues, but when she moves the camera towards them, she finds Amanda's remains on the floor. The young woman despairs and asks what has happened, then Jimmy reveals that another sand shark has attacked her. Willie suggests breaking up the party, as all the guests are in danger, but his boss continues to insist on keeping the festival going. To their surprise, Aaron agrees to the idea, because if they cancel the party now, the damage will be much greater. Willie is irritated by this response and tells the girl to stay out of the business, as she's just an intern. However, the young woman responds by hitting the man over the head with a glass bottle, knocking him unconscious. She then tells Jimmy that she will keep everything under control at the party, but in return, she wants to be promoted to partner in his business. Jimmy accepts the terms and returns to the festivities, while Aaron takes charge of hiding Willie. She then decides to take him into the trailer, but just then, the sand shark appears again and tries to attack her. Without hesitation, Aaron throws Willie towards the shark, which devours him mercilessly. Thanks to this, the girl gains time and takes the opportunity to hide inside the trailer, so the shark sets off in search of new victims. Back at the party, two young friends start making sculptures in the sand, one of which looks a lot like a shark. Suddenly, two girls come over to talk to them because they know they sell hallucinogens and want to make the party more fun. The two agree to do business, but in return they ask the young woman to take off her shirt. She refuses, but the two friends promise not to look and ask her to do it in front of the shark sculpture they've made in the sand. Although she finds the request strange, the young woman accepts, but as soon as she kneels on the sand, a real shark appears and swallows her. The whole place is stained with the victim's blood and what was supposed to be a moment of fun turns into a scene of horror. Nearby, the sheriff sees everything and orders the beach evacuated, but the desperate young people start running around in circles while the predator attacks them. Brenda then rushes to the stage, forcibly removes the DJ from the party and uses the microphone to tell everyone to get out of there as soon as possible. A general riot breaks out and Jimmy, who was drinking to forget his troubles, sees that his party has turned into chaos. He tries to calm everyone down, but Brenda tells him that it's too late and they need to get away, because now there's not just one, but 3 sand sharks. The two then run away from the beach, with Brenda pulling out her gun and trying to shoot the monster. Jimmy warns her it's no use and pulls her away, but tragically, one of the sharks attacks the policewoman, devouring half her body. Taken aback by what he has just seen, Jimmy pulls Brenda off the beach and tries to save her, but there is nothing he can do. Before saying goodbye, he confesses that, despite everything, he has always loved her and, in her last moments, the policewoman retorts by calling him an idiot. The confusion on the beach continues and Dr. Powers pours a liquid with the spray bottle, attracting the sharks away from the youngsters. Sheriff John helps her escape and the two hide on the rocks, but they soon find themselves surrounded by the sharks. He then asks for Brenda's help over the comm, but the caller is Jimmy, who reveals the elimination of the policewoman. He even admits that it was all his fault, as he knew about the other sharks, but kept it a secret so as not to spoil his festival. Overcome by sadness and anger, the sheriff tells Jimmy that he will settle the score with him soon, but that now he needs his help. John says that he and Sandy are surrounded by sharks and only Jimmy can save them. The guy agrees to help, but at the docks, he sees that the youngsters have fled there and more sharks are heading their way. Jimmy tells him what's going on and the sheriff asks him to help everyone get out of there. Arriving at the scene in Brenda's car, Jimmy guides everyone to safety. Afterwards, he finds Angus holding a rifle and the old man tells him that he's still willing to hunt the sharks, but that he won't be able to do it alone. The two then go to the police station in search of help and find the sheriff and Dr. Powers, who have managed to escape from the sharks. The old man then tells them that, in order to stop the monsters, they need to set a trap that will catch them all at once. To do this, Angus takes everyone to a small base in a sand field, surrounded by mountains. His plan consists of heating the field to such a high temperature that it will crystallize the sand and trap all the sharks. Although it's a risky plan, the group agrees and now they have to find a way to attract the monsters and warm up the sand. Dr. Powers suggests using sound waves, as sharks are attracted to them, so the group takes several speakers and connects them between the beach and the open field. The next step is to find a way to heat the sand, and Jimmy remembers that he brought a highly concentrated supply of napalm. Now that they have everything they need to face the sharks, the group spreads napalm over the field and turns on the speakers. The four of them then hide in the base, and Jimmy puts the song Ride of the Valkyries on the record player, in homage to the movie Apocalypse Now. The loud sound is emitted from the ground and, as the doctor predicted, the sharks begin to be attracted to the music. However, the speakers stop working and the music is interrupted, causing the sharks to leave. The sheriff decides to go there to fix them, but Jimmy offers to go in his place, because he wants to make up for the mistakes he made. He then runs towards the speakers, while dodging the fins of the sharks. Luckily, he manages to get there, but realizes that there's no way to fix it, as one of the cables has been broken by the sharks. Nevertheless, Jimmy decides to improvise and start singing loudly to lure the sharks towards the napalm. His plan works, and, in a final act of heroism, Jimmy lies down in the field and allows himself to be attacked by the sharks, luring them into the trap. Thanks to this, Angus pulls out his flamethrower and fires it at the napalm, causing the earth to crystallize, trapping the sharks in the sand. Finally, the group manages to defeat the monsters, but before they can celebrate, they see a gigantic fin on the other side of the mountains. Then Mother Shark crosses the land and swallows Angus, forcing Sheriff John and Sandy to hide inside the base. However, the huge monster manages to get inside and tries to devour them both, but John escapes through the window and Sandy follows. Before leaving, the doctor throws the flamethrower tank into the monster's mouth and runs out of the window. The two then run to escape, and the shark bites the tank, causing an explosion that completely disintegrates it. Finally, John and Sandy manage to defeat the sand shark and White Island is safe again. Hours later, in the middle of the beach, Erin gets out of the trailer and sees that no one else is around. Suddenly, she receives a call on Jimmy's cell phone from a businessman who also wants to organize a beach party. The young woman decides to seize the opportunity and, without Jimmy around, she says she'll organize everything. However, before she can close the deal, another sand shark appears and devours her, indicating that the threat on the island is not over yet. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.